Okay, first of all, good afternoon, all of you. Okay, since all of us we know that today is the day for women, it is Women Equality Day. So, in this occasion of women equality, our resource person, Mrs. Maishri Gharfalia, she is my school junior and she's very talented student. In during her school days, during her means in her overall career, if we talk about, she's very talented. So let me introduce myself to you. I, Mrs. Jubi Borua Mondol from Political Science Department, as well as a member of Anti-Ragging and Sexual Harassment Committee. And these two committee combined together have organized this program that is related to women empowerment, women equality, and all. It is also a women issues, we can say. So, my junior school junior, Mrs. Maishri Gharfalia, she is LLM as well as UGC NET holder. She specialized in human rights and criminal law. She is also BA LLB honors Northeastern Hill University, Shillong, then Master of Law, LLM National Law University, Delhi, and she has submitted her thesis to National Law University and Judicial Academy, Assam in 2021, that is this year. Then she has published a paper in national and international peer review journals, then participated and spoken in national and international seminars, then conferences as well as workshops. Her area of interest is constitutional law, human rights, women empowerment, then environment, political philosophy, and she is talented in music. She is very interested in music. So now I welcome on behalf of Political Science Department as well as Anti-Ragging and Sexual Harassment Committee to Maishri Falia to give a talk on women empowerment, women equality, as well as women participation in different level of society politics. So Maishri, you are most welcome to our college and you can proceed your talk now. Thank you, Maishri.
Thank you, Madam Jubi Borwa. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Yes. Respected Jubi Borwa, Madam, and all my dear student friends. Uh, we know that, the COVID situation is going on and the COVID crisis has actually made all our, joys very precious. The joys have lessened, but yet we will have to go on with life. We'll have to keep pace with life with whatever small resources we can. So, on this occasion of Women Equality Day, I would like to express my gratitude to the Political Science Department and the Anti-Ragging and Anti-Sexual Harassment Committee of St. John's College, Dimapur, Nagaland. I'm thankful to them because for they have invited me to address you people on the occasion of Women Equality Day. And the topic of today's presentation would be women participation in politics and empowerment. So I will start with my presentation. I hope the slides are visible to everybody. Madam
Yes, this
Judy?
slide, yes, yes,
Okay.
it's visible.
Okay. So, dear students, today's topic of presentation would be women participation in politics and empowerment. So, we know that India is the largest democracy in the world. And we also know what is democracy, right? We know that, democracy is government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And this is one of the famous quotations given by US President, ex-US President Abraham Lincoln. And also, democracy is a government that is elected by all sections of the society. All sections of the society, irrespective of caste, creed, language, birth, um, gender, etc., etc. But Whether government comprises of all the sections of society, whether government works for all the sections of society is a debatable issue. So we don't know whether the government comprises of all the sections of society irrespective of gender. We don't, it is still a debatable issue. And on this context, we would like to, study the problem of low participation of women in politics.
Mm.
So the low participation of women in politics is a cause of concern. Why is it a cause of concern? Because without women participation in politics, democracy can never be attained. Without changing that tendency of keeping women, away from politics, democracy can never be attained, right? So women's participation in politics is important for their interest to be incorporated in democracy. Their interest is to be incorporated in democracy, and therefore, women's participation in politics is very much important. And in the local governments, it is essential for equality and gender sensitive policies. In the local government also, women's participation is very much important so that they can bring about gender sensitive policies. Gender sensitive policies means policies, legislation, acts, or other schemes that are gender sensitive that are helpful for women in recognizing, in affirming their rights, their fundamental rights, their entitlements, etc., etc. Now, why women actually need to participate in politics, or what is the advantage of women? What advantage of women being participating in politics is that women are actively involved in household and community work. Women are actively involved in household and community work, and they are aware of the real issues faced by the common people because they are so, actively involved in the community work. They were aware of the real issues faced by the common people, and this particular trend leads to breaking of stereotypes. We always say that, okay, well, women are vulnerable, they do not know anything about politics, they should be kept away from the governance system of the country, but that is not true because they are aware of the real issues faced by the common people. Therefore it leads to this breaking of stereotypes, and they can resist criminalization of politics because it is seen that women are very much against corruption in today's world. And women participation in politics can also help in implementing just and then gender sensitive policies and law. They can help in implementing just and gender sensitive policies and law. This means that they can bring about, enactment or implementation of policies that are just for them, that are right for them, and that stands for the in favor of their rights and entitlements. Even our Constitution of India also talks about equality. We know that, right? Article 14 of the Indian Constitution talks about right to equality, that is equal protection of law and equality before law, and this equal protection of law and equality before law is given to all people irrespective of caste, creed, language, place of birth, gender, color, etc., etc. Now let us come to the historical context as to what is the history of women's participation in politics. First, in the medieval period, there was the prevalence of the Parda system. So women's participation in the ancient and the medieval period was not that advanced during this periods because there was the prevalence of Parda system. Women were subjected to the Parda and they had to remain under the Parda, and they had no say in the governance of the country. They had no say in the good governance of the country. They had no say in the community work. But in the post-independence era, that is after independence, women has been seen actively taking part in day-to-day activities, especially politics and economic activities, household chores, voting for a better governance are some of the activities in which women actually has been taking part in the post-independence era. Especially, we can see that India had the prime minister, that is Indira Gandhi, and we had the president Pratibha Patil are the examples of women who rose to power and who actually took part in the governance of the country, right? So in the historical context, we will have to first look at the Indian freedom movement as to how the Indian freedom movement, how the Indian freedom movement contributed in women's emancipation in politics. So women participated in the freedom movement. For example, we can say, take the examples of Rani Lakshmibai, Sarojini Naidu, Kasturba Gandhi, Vijay Lakshmi Pandit, Annie Besant are the examples of women who were taking part in the freedom movement. So initially, during the freedom movement, only women from the educated families joined. Only women from the educated families joined, from the well-to-do families joined. But this changed with the coming of Mahatma Gandhi. This change with the coming of Mahatma Gandhi, transforming the entire movement into a mass movement. In this mass movement, he involved all the sections of people. And the most successful campaign was the issue of salt tax. So Indian women were brought to the forefront and local issues were debated. Women took center stage in this regard. So Mahatma Gandhi, with the coming of Mahatma Gandhi, when the entire freedom movement took the shape of a mass movement, he involved all the sections of people that involved women too, especially in the campaign of the salt tax. And in this particular campaign, local issues were debated. Women took center stage in this regard, right? So the next important aspect is the Women Reservation Bill. So after Gandhi, the post-Gandhi era, there was centralization of planning. Centralization of planning. And there was, with the centralization of planning, when every part of planning or the governance of the country was centralized, then it was seen that there was inequality in decision-making process. In the decision-making process, women participation in politics did not commensurate their population. This means that women population was very high in the country, but it was not proportionate with the women participation in politics. Women participation in politics did not commensurate with their population. And Sarojini Naidu, in this regard, rejected the reservation for women in politics, especially in the legislatures, in the Lok Sabha and the state legislative assemblies, and also the panchayats. Sarojini Naidu rejected reservation for women just because she thought that women do not need preferential treatment in any aspects of the society, in any aspect of governance, because women are already equal to men, right? So in 1973, the reservation of women in at least one-third of seats and statutory women's panchayat at village level was recommended. So in 1973, reservation of women in at least one-third of seats at the statutory women's panchayat and village level were recommended. And it was this particular recommendation aimed at taking care of the neglect of women in rural development programs, taking care of the neglect in the rural development programs. And through 73rd and 74th amendments in 1993, Women Reservation Bill or the 108 Amendment Bill was initiated. But the Women Reservation Bill or the 108 Amendment Bill is a pending bill, and it proposes to reserve 33% of all seats in the lower house of the parliament, that is Lok Sabha. So Women's Reservation Bill actually proposes to reserve 1/3% of all seats in the lower house of the parliament, Lok Sabha, and the state legislatures. But this reservation bill could not clear because it faced due resistance of some regional parties on certain provisions of the bill, and also we can say that the patriarchal mindset of the society did not allow this bill to become an act till date, and it is still pending in the parliament. The next important part that we need to study is the Panchayati Raj reforms. Provisions relating to the establishment of powers and responsibilities of panchayats through the 73rd Amendment in 1993 were implemented. It provided for three-tier system that is in the village, in the intermediate and the district levels. It also provided for the composition of panchayats, reservation of seats and leadership positions for ST and women, ST, SC and women, and the duration of panchayat would be 5 years. The panchayat would sit for 5 years, and after 5 years there would be again election to elect another panchayat. Then another provisions that was provided through this amendment was that the state government can make laws providing for disqualification of members from panchayat elections. These reforms enable panchayats to work as self-government and for the devolution of powers and responsibilities upon panchayats at the appropriate level. And these works actually emancipate the economic development and social justice under the jurisdiction of that particular panchayat where the panchayat is elected. And it has also helped the weaker sections, especially women, to take part in governance. So the statistics, I have researched a bit and I have found out that statistics has indicated that 30 to 50% of local level elected representatives in India are women. Now let us come to the constitutional provisions. We know that Indian constitution is the largest constitution in the world, longest constitution in the world, and Indian constitution, the coming of Indian constitution in 1950, it heralded a new era in the governance of the country. Why? Because the erstwhile rights that were not given to the people were given to the people, and they were affirmed and they were ratified by the governance of the country, and it also gave equality to all. So, in the Constitution, provisions contained in UN Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women are contained in the Constitution of India. All the provisions contained in UN Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women are contained in the Constitution of India. And it also provides for something called as positive discrimination, that is Article 15, Clause 3. Article 15, Clause 3 of the Constitution of India says that the state can take affirmative actions or positive discrimination, or it can have special provisions for the welfare of women and children. We also remember the Article 14, which talks about the right to equality, which provides for right to equality, that is right to equal protection of laws and equality before laws to all the citizens of India, irrespective of caste, creed, language, place of birth, gender, etc., etc. Then again, Article 39A, it provides for adequate means of livelihood to both men and women. Article 39D provides for equal pay for equal work. Article 42, it provides for just and humane conditions of work and maternity leave. So what is just and humane conditions of work? I'm sure that you have understood the previous provisions. Article 42, just and humane conditions of work means women and men should work in a condition which is not, prejudicial to their mental or physical health. And women must get maternity benefit or maternity relief. Then lastly, we have the Article 51AE, that is the fundamental duty. And this fundamental duty says that in fundamental duty of citizens to renounce practices derogatory to the dignity of women is one of the fundamental duties of the citizens of this country. So we have the few, statistics regarding the representation of women in parliament and the state legislature. In Lok Sabha, the trend has not been so impressive. So in the first Lok Sabha, there were 22 women only, which is 4.4% of the entire house. And this is not so impressive. It comprised only 4.4% of the entire house. Then we have the 6th Lok Sabha, there were only 19 women. In the 13th Lok Sabha, there were 49 women. In the 14th Lok Sabha, there were 51 women. And in the 17th Lok Sabha, now the present Lok Sabha, there are 78 women. So, statistics about the Rajya Sabha in 1952, 15 women were there in the Rajya Sabha, which is not at all impressive. That is 6.94% of the House. And at present, that is in the present times, it comprises of 10.33% of the entire House. So statistics regarding the state legislatures, it is equally dismal, it is not that impressive, and the average percentage of elected women in state legislative assemblies is 6.94% only, which is equally dismal and not that impressive, not that inspiring. So this needs to be changed, right? So let us come to what is reservation of women in the local bodies. The reservation of women in the local bodies was enunciated by the 73rd and the 74th amendments. So it provided for reservation of seats for women in panchayats and municipal bodies. So according to these amendments, Article 243D and Article 243T were added in the Constitution of India. This Article 243D and 243T provided that not less than one third, including the number of seats reserved for women belonging to ST and SC of the total number of seats to be filled by the direct election. So what did it provide? It provided that not less than one third, including the number of seats reserved for women belonging to ST and SC of the total number of seats to be filled by direct election. And we know that India has a representative form of government at all levels where we elect our representatives every 5 years and send them to the parliament or whatever the forum, and then they do represent our problems and issues, right? So this has been an encouraging trend. This is an encouraging trend. And the last 15 years, we have seen the rise of vulnerable groups in political representation with the coming of, the things like public interest litigation, things like judicial activism, and things like multiple political parties, and also the emancipation of the rights which is to be given to the vulnerable groups like the STs and the SCs. So in the last 15 years, the rise of vulnerable groups in the political representation have been witnessed, and women have actually prioritized issues of health, education, and access to basic services. So, next let us come to the challenges in measuring women political participation. So, participation as a proxy candidate. So, participation as a proxy candidate. First, mouthpiece of the male family members. Mouthpiece of the male family members. This means what? This means that people feel that if women are actually given a part in the politics, if women are actually, made to take part in the politics, then what happens? They will only work in behalf of their male family members. So they can act as a proxy candidate. And it is needed to record data at more micro levels so that such proxy can be, identified. Then again, measurement of decision making initiatives. So we can say that there is a lack of qualitative data on aspects of their active participation. There is lack of qualitative data. We have lot of quantitative data, we have lot of statistics, we have lot of things that can be measured. But the qualitative data on the aspects of their active participation is not there. It is lacking. And so it is the valuable essence is yet to be established at most of the places. The valuable essence is yet to be established at most of the places. For example, whether actually the qualitative data could mean actually whether the women participation in politics is forbidden by the patriarchal mindset of the society. That is the first question. The second question could be whether the women participation in politics actually enhance the quality of politics or the governance of the country is another question. So these kind of questions answers are not there in the form of qualitative data, and it is very difficult to actually bring to a conclusion or arrive at a conclusion when it comes to the when it comes to actually measuring the qualitative data on that particular aspect, and the valuable essence is also missing. Data on their sensitization of their rights is still missing. So the data on their sensitization of their rights is still missing. This could mean that, whether women are actually aware of their rights and entitlements is missing. Then, it is not clear whether they are aware of the different legislations and the gender sensitive policies that the government would take them, because of maybe their lack of interest in it, or maybe because of the patriarchal mindset, and maybe because of, their patriarchal mindset, or maybe because of the lack of data as to their rights and entitlements. So in order to, prevent all these, the missing of qualitative data and the data on their sensitization of their rights, what can be done? Efforts can be made to capture the performance of women in debates, initiative in bringing legislation, and participation in other aspects of democratic process. So efforts can be made to capture the performance of women in debates. Efforts can be made to actually make a database of their performance in debates. Efforts can be made to have data, qualitative data as well as quantitative data. Efforts can be made to, record actually whatever they're doing, their performance in women in debates, initiative in bringing legislation, whether their presence would actually bring gender sensitive legislation, and participation in other aspects of democratic process. So, the possible approaches for a robust measurement framework. What are the possible approaches in order to, eradicate this particular uh, lag, this particular missing link? In order to do that, we need, application of technology. So we know that the new government in India has a penchant for using technology, right? So more than electricity, mobile has reached the people in nook and corner of India, and, more than electricity, people depend on the mobile. So in such a context, in such a scenario, it is possible for a digital communication advancements may be introduced to capture the actual participation of women in panchayat activities by counting their attendance and vote. So, so digital communication advancement or technology can be used in order to record the panchayat activities, the participation of women in panchayat activities, and counting their attendance and the vote. So this can be recorded and kept as a data for future use, or to, assess the quality of women presence in the politics of India. Next, we have portals and mobile applications may be used to voice the women issues. So portals and mobile applications may be used to voice the women issues. Certain softwares can be made, certain technologies may be used in which they can be used to voice the women issues. For example, lack of participation in the politics, the rape issues, eve teasing, their non-awareness of their rights and entitlements, then again, marginal, not equal pay as men, etc., etc. These issues can be voiced by portals and mobile applications in such a, technologically advanced era of the country. Next, we have application of analytics. Advanced analytics may be used to validate and cluster data on women participation in local level politics. So advanced analytics may be used to validate and cluster data on women participation in local level politics. This is also same with the application of technology, and it can be used in order to validate, cluster, and also segregate information regarding women participation in local level politics. That is, the local level politics means the women, the panchayats and the municipal bodies. And the work has been started by the government to use social media analytics for grassroots development, and gender equality can be incorporated in this framework. So work has already been started by the government to use social media analytics for grassroots development, and gender equality, gender issues can be incorporated in this particular framework. In this particular framework, the women issues can be incorporated so that I repeat, both qualitative and quantitative data can be elicited from such use of technology. So, development of women in political participation score. So, in this particular phase, collection of data is, we must remember that collection of data is essential for policymakers. So, information is to be used as indicator, which can be used for political intervention. Data may be included all three aspects, for women as electorate, women as elected representatives, and women as policymakers. So collection of data is essential for policymakers, and this information regarding women's presence in governance or the politics of the country can be used as an indicator for policy intervention. That means in order to make any scheme, in order to make any legislation, in order to make any act which is for the welfare of the woman, this information can be used. And data may include all these three aspects, that is women as electorate, women as elected representatives, and women as policymakers, which women as electorate means women as voters. Women as elected representatives mean women as politicians themselves, or the representatives in the parliament or the state legislature or the panchayat or the the municipal bodies, and women as policymakers, the women who participate in the policy making or the decision making of the government. And a single score of different dimensions can be used for both budgeting and policy intervention. A single score of different dimensions, a single variable of different dimensions, qualitative data, quantitative data, their presence in the policy making, they as electorate, they as the voter, they as the policy maker, etc., etc., can be used for both budgeting and the policy intervention. Can be used in both, budgeting schemes for the welfare of the woman, and policy intervention means making legislation for the betterment or the welfare of the women folk or the fairer sex. So, in conclusion, it can be said that India has a rich history. We know that, and decentralization has increased the importance of measuring participation of women in decision making. So decentralization means devolution of powers in the other organs of the government as well. The central government sitting at Delhi cannot, look after all the aspects of the country, all the nook and corner of the country. So decentralization has increased the importance of measuring participation of women in decision making. Proper budgeting has already been worked out, and at present, one third of the budget allocation is for women's schemes. We must remember that one third budget allocation are for the women's schemes. So, India's poor record on women's representation is but starkly revealed by the World Economic Forum Global Gender Gap Index 2021. So through my research, I have found out that it has been, poor representation has been revealed by an index called the World Economic Forum Global Gender Gap Index, and it slipped from 28 places, ranking 140 among 156 countries. So when it comes to women representation in the politics, it is, India ranks 140 among 156 countries, and it is the third worst performer in South Asia, and only ahead of Pakistan and Afghanistan. It is the third worst performer. So this is a dismal picture. And biggest slump in the political empowerment sub-index, where India ranks 51, dropping from the 18 in the last year. So in the political empowerment sub-index, last year India was the 18th rank, but it has dropped from 18 to 51 rank, and this needs to be changed. This needs to be changed. How? This needs to be changed. Yes, first, the patriarchal mindset of the people that women cannot join politics, women are made for household chores, women cannot take part in the governance of the country needs to change. Then qualitative and quantitative data can be elicited through application of technology, which is very much encouraged by the present government. These things needs to be changed through all the all the steps that I have spoken about. So this is all about women participation in politics and empowerment students. I hope the data that I collected is informative enough. So I, turn over to Jubi Borua.
Okay, thank you, Maishri, for the wonderful talk that you have given to our students.
Yes.
It's really benefited to them, even though I too have learned a lot of things regarding this. So, students, do you have any question regarding the topic? If you have any question, you can put the question in the chat box or you can unmute yourself. So, Maishri, as they are forming question, let me ask you one question from my side.
Okay.
Since in Rajya Sabha, the reservation bill has been passed on 9th March 2010,
Mm.
but yet it has not been passed in Lok Sabha.
Yeah.
So, can you mention why it has not been passed in Lok Sabha?
Actually, if you ask me technically, then
Mhm.
there will be many reasons. But the main reason behind this would be the patriarchal mindset of people who are actually opposing it. That is
Okay.
so much there in our culture. It is very simply we can say that okay, maybe people are opposing it, they have not got the votes, etc., etc. But it is so much there in our culture itself that much of research is needed to do in this particular context. So this
Yeah.
might be one of the reasons.
Yeah, and also when this bill was passed, they have included certain proposal
Yeah,
that if the bill is passed, then some quota it should be given to the Muslim women as
yeah,
well as the backward women's also.
yeah.
So, do you think that because of the Muslim women and the backward women involved in the proposal, is the reason that Lok Sabha is not passing the bill yet?
So it might, that, like if 33% is given to the women, most of the people say that they do not actually need 33% because women are already, equal to men. That is the first reason. And the second is, if we see it will be a bit controversial to say, but if we see the present government, it's all about, saffronizing the country. It's all about the Hindutva thing. So in such a context, it might be one of the reasons that the people are opposing this particular bill, especially the inclusion of SC woman, and Muslim women would actually hamper the design which has been devised by the government of India.
Okay, thank you so much for answering my question. And one more question I have.
Yeah,
Since the students they are not putting any questions, so I'm only putting you the questions.
yeah, yeah, sure,
So,
sure.
as we have seen in Afghanistan,
Yeah.
the women candidate is more in
Mm,
politics
mm.
compared to our India. So
Yeah,
Afghanistan is a small country,
yeah,
and whereas India is a vast country.
yeah.
So what is the means reason behind this?
One of the reason could be, like again, I'm saying about the patriarchal mindset of
Okay.
the society. It is so much in our culture. That could
Mm.
be one thing, and the second reason could be because at the present time the situation of Afghanistan is deteriorating because
Yeah.
of the capture of Sharia. But
Mm.
the because of the population explosion in our country also, it will be difficult to reconcile, or it will be difficult to proportionately give women representation in the political system. So because of population explosion is one of the reasons. And we can say we can take the we can see so many people in India. So because of population explosion, there could be one of the reasons that it is not proportionate. It does not tally the women representation in politics, and the population does not actually commensurate with each other. So that
Yeah.
could be one of the reasons.
Okay. Thank you so much. So students, do you have any question? Okay, Smita Rai, she have put one question. Let me.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a very important question regarding the representation of women within our own Northeast region. As we are already aware of the ongoing cases of a male student from Guwahati
Yeah,
IIT institution who was given bail from the HS
yeah,
High Court after being accused of raping a girl just because the higher authorities say that uh,
he's talented.
yeah, that guy is someone who has good intelligence and
Mm,
is the future of tomorrow. How
mm.
do we expand women to stand out when these type of injustice happen, which is just very endangering our own our women?
So this is a very important question, and
Yes.
also probably a bit difficult to answer. But then our justice system or our law system is such that it depends on proof, it depends on evidence, and also the judges sitting at that particular chair. Judges are after all human beings, so we cannot expect all the judges to be objective at all times. Judges sometimes can be subjective as well. So because of this subjectiveness of the judges, this kind of decisions might have come. But then the girls, we will have to empower ourselves with education to the extent that nobody can violate our rights. And at the same time, when a boy is born, we should not say that girls don't get raped. Rather, we must teach our sons that don't rape, or we must inculcate such habits in them from the very childhood itself, so that they do not do anything, they do not take part in such illegal activities. But at the same time, the subjectiveness of these judges is actually one of the issues, and which must be checked at all costs at all times.
So, Smita, she have put another question that whom do you support, Maishri?
Yeah, of course, I do support the girl, because saying that the boy is an asset of the country, the boy is talented and he will be the future asset of the country, is a very vague excuse. It does not have any definition, it does not rely on any concrete foundation. So to me, the judges have actually acted very subjectively in this regard,
Okay.
not
I hope,
objective.
Smita, I hope you have got your question answer. Any more questions, students? Do you have? Students, you can put your questions if you have any. Okay, Maishri, regarding women's security, if we talk about in the time of war, we have seen now in Afghanistan only,
Mm.
the Taliban they are physically, mentally, they are torturing women a lot. Even though the childrens also they are torturing. So, do you think that women's security can be minimized during wartime or can be
Yes,
avoided?
yes, yes. Under international humanitarian law, we see that that there are certain groups of people who cannot be made victims during war, but it happens. For example, the vulnerable groups like children or women, or they cannot be captured as slaves. But international law is a vague term now, so we have seen nations like Pakistan and China, they are always on the upfront to break the international law. For example, as the US troops have taken out their armed forces from the country, China and Pakistan are actually supporting them. So from the law point of view, when we say international law, yes, the security should not be, hampered, but it is being done. So the question arises as to what is law then? What is international law? So from that point of view, yes, security of women is being hampered, is being, taken to perils. So this must be checked.
Okay, thank you, Maishri.
Okay.
So, any more question? Okay, Smita Rai is again putting a question. Ma'am, which female leader do you like or favor from across the Indian state and why?
Which female leader? I would say I do admire a bit of Mamta Banerjee because she is very much dedicated. I feel that she is very much into her land and she is very much into the problems of the common people. So I do admire some aspects of Mamta Banerjee. And as far as the world is concerned, well, she is not a leader, but then she got the Nobel Prize, and she is Malala Yousafzai. I do admire her. But in Indian context, yes, Mamta Banerjee is one lady who can be, um, who can be seen walking among the masses, taking care of the issues of the common people, etc., etc. So this is all about.
Okay, she's asking another question. What about Smita Irani? Yeah, Smriti Irani.
Oh, Smriti Irani. Well, what to say? She is, yes, she is doing good in politics, but then I don't think I do admire her. I don't think I admire her.
Everyone is having their own viewpoint in regard this. Okay, so Smita, can I put to you one question? To whom do you admire? Yes, Smita, you can unmute yourself. Okay, I think she'll be giving later on the answer. Okay, I personally do not like Mamta.
Okay, okay,
She's not liking Mamta. Okay, then
okay.
whom do you like, Smita? Okay, so uh, I like Grita. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Then any more question do you have? Students, do you have any more questions? Okay. I think no question will be there, Maestri. So I
Okay.
really thank you on behalf of our St. John College, on behalf of Political Science Department, Anti-Ragging and Sexual Harassment Committee, for giving a useful and thoughtful talk on women issue. Since we know from ancient time, regarding if we talk about Manu concept also, Manu he told that if a woman is respected in her own house, then only a state, a country can be developed. So
Yes.
women respect is very important from the house onward. It's not like that that when she enter into a position, then only she should be respected. No, it's not like
Yes.
that. Women should be respected from their home, whether it is a housewife, whether whatever in she is, she should be respected in that way only. And this concept, it should be entering into the male person mainly. For according to me, if you ask me, the male is the male person who is forming the government. The loophole is in them that they are not passing the women reservation bill or somewhat like that.
Yes.
They don't want women to come out and enter the field of politics or in the enter the field of decision making. Even in their household, in the house also we see women opinion is not considered. They only consider male opinion. So it's not like that. Women is overall now, they can do as much as work as much things like male. So women is not less than men. So it has been already proved by ancient scholars or philosophers also like Manu. So I think my viewpoint, I don't like any person in politics, because politics is such a game. If you enter once, your hands will be dirty. Whether it is Susma Swaraj, Nirmala Sitaraman, whoever it is, your hands will be dirty. So it is not like that that women should not enter politics. Yes, they should enter politics, but they should also bring out women issues that they are facing in the society, in the state. Then only the country can be developed, or we can say it's going for a developing. So thank you so much, Maitri, for
Okay.
taking my request. And in a very short duration, you have come up with a very good talk. I am really thankful to you.
Thank
So
you, Ma'am Juby. And I would like to add something to Smita's
yes.
point. I also admire Sushma Swaraj. I forgot her to take her
Uh-huh.
name. Yes, Sushma Swaraj is one woman whom I admire.
Yeah, Susma
Okay.
Swaraj, yeah, we can say
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much, and student also. I really thank you all to for joining this program and making it a fruitful one. Okay, thank you,
Thank you, Juby. Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.